So hi, Stuart Watts, Why Tamworth. Today I've found some precious time with Mathew Sweeney. Mathew is president of the Tamworth Business Chamber. He's also a very prominent accountant in Tamworth with Bell Partners, a resident that has been here since 2014, moved from Western Sydney to Tamworth, so relocated his family, which is very much a common message that we're finding with everybody we're talking to, those that have relocated, have brought their family along, and I guess he's got some interesting stories to share with us in that sense. But welcome, Mathew, to Why Tamworth.
Thanks, Stuart.
Interesting. We'll probably just touch on the Tamworth Business Chamber to start with. You've been president now for coming up 12 months.
December last year.
Yeah.
So been on the board for 18 months, but stepped up into the presidency role as of December.
Yes. Yep. And you find that there's a really good connection between the business chamber and the council in terms of rowing the boat together to get a great result for the growth of Tamworth?
Yeah, look, we have regular meetings with the council where we're exchanging information both ways, where things that they're looking at doing, how we can get the business chamber and particularly our members involved with that, and then give them feedback of things that businesses are either needing assistance with or roadblocks they're finding in council, whether that's from, say, a DA point of view, where we're just helping that communication link. But no, that works well at the moment with the discussions that we have with them on a monthly basis.
And it's interesting when you talk to those that have invested in Tamworth in recent years. A lot of them say that our council is very good to work with in that sense, and surprisingly so, because those new developers, investors that have come to Tamworth are often working in other markets in New South Wales and find that they get some really serious roadblocks at council level in terms of achieving what they want to achieve and getting the green light sooner rather than later.
Look, I mean, I've sort of dealt with lots of different councils through my background, and Tamworth with its Blueprint 100 program, is recognising that at some point Tamworth will get to 100,000 people. The difference will be either we get there naturally and we don't have the resources and the infrastructure to support it, or we recognise we're going to get there, and both from the council point of view and the business point of view, we make sure that our infrastructure and resources are ready for that. It's not when we get there. In terms of timing, it's we know we're going to get there. We need to be ready for it.
Interesting, and one of the pillars of the forward growth of Tamworth is the opportunity with renewable energies, and you've been reasonably heavily involved with a couple of the projects that are on the go here, mainly solar. To this point, but there's other sort of major opportunities in I guess everything from the gases to wind farms, etc., etc.
Yep.
Can you share with us a little bit in terms of where you see the vision is there and the part that renewable energies will play not only in the future as far as power generation and energy generation, but also where it sort of will play a part in the infrastructure in Tamworth?
Well, the Energy Co, which is a New South Wales government body, have released only recently the New England Renewable Energy Zone information, which is basically where their poles and wires and towers are going to go. So that's now being published, which will give the link for the solar and the wind and the like into the grid to get down to Liddell. And then from Liddell, it then goes back out to the wider network on the eastern seaboard. That information is now readily available. It's a $10 billion project, which basically comes straight through, from Armidale right through to Liddell. So Tamworth is, right in the middle of all of that, and will no doubt benefit from that infrastructure. On top of that, you've actually got the individual solar farms and wind farms and renewable projects which link into all of that, which are all part of the investment opportunities. And all of those businesses, particularly those that I'm sort of talking to and involved with are looking for local suppliers, whether that be the business that puts their fencing around their site, whether it be the business that drills or puts the solar paneling in place, puts the infrastructure, roadworks, those sort of networks in place. They're all wanting local businesses to be doing that. Partly, it benefits the local community, but then once those sites have been completed and in the operational stage, somebody needs to maintain them. And they don't want to be sending someone up from Sydney to repair a fence panel. They'd rather have that person locally where they can call them up and saying, look, a fence panel's been blown down, or a tree's fallen on it, go and fix it. Much easier if you've got local people who put that in place to start with.
Yeah. So in regards of putting your business chamber hat back on, where do you see some of the really exciting areas of let's say growth or assistance or contribution that the business chamber is going to make?
Look, I see that there's 3 hot zones currently in Tamworth. One of them obviously renewable energy. The second one is linked to the intermodal hub out near the airport. The rail line is pretty much complete now. Cube are developing the final parts of that to start in September. And then you've got all the businesses and infrastructure that's building around that to put stuff on the rail to straight down to Port of Newcastle, where Cube will have a site down there as well. So there's a big growth in that. And then we're also seeing a fairly big demand in the educational training sector locally, where University of New England are looking at setting up another site here in Tamworth. But we've also got University of Newcastle. They're expanding their site up near the hospital, and they can just see the training opportunities there as well. That we see that training education side being another pillar here in Tamworth.
Fantastic. So let's get on to the Sweeney family sort of story. And as I say, you made the relocation here in 2014. I was fortunate enough to be the agent that sold you your home.
Yes.
And I guess from there, you've educated your children here as well. How have you found that?
Look, when we left Sydney, we had sort of employees and other people sort of question why we would take our children out of Sydney and move them to Tamworth. I had no concerns about it at all. I've often been asked, why am I in Tamworth and why didn't I stay down to Sydney and why did I join the Chamber of Commerce? It's a simple reason that I want to build the Tamworth region and the businesses here so that my children have the choice of staying here locally, having a good job, working as they want, getting all the same opportunities they could have if they were to go to Newcastle, Sydney, Britain, UK, London, where we lived for quite a number of years. There's no reason why Tamworth can't provide the same opportunity. And obviously, I'm looking at from my children's point of view, but for anyone living here, there's the international globe from a business point of view is shrinking every day.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you can't be sitting in Tamworth communicating with somebody in Panama, for instance. I've got a client over there at the moment. Whether I'm sitting in Tamworth doing that or sitting in Sydney or sitting in Panama itself, doesn't matter. Yeah. It's all that stuff can be done here, and we've got the knowledge and the expertise here in Tamworth to do it.
And I know that you're actively involved in the Soccer Referees Association, and your son's one of the more prominent referees here. Mm-hmm. And so you've experienced all the sporting facilities and that culture as well. That's something that's worked well for you in terms of integrating into the community.
Yeah, well, when we were down in Sydney, my son was still playing soccer down there, but it was quite often sort of having to go into other towns to play. I was only down there last weekend with my sister. She's in Windsor. She was playing in Lyonnais, which is a good hour and a half drive, and she was playing a team from Katoomba, which is another hour and a half drive. So both teams driving a fair distance to get together to play one game.
Yeah.
For and they're under eights, so 2 20-minute halves. Here in Tamworth, there's plenty of sporting opportunities all within 10, 15 minutes of one another. So whether your child's playing hockey, netball, soccer, rugby league, rugby union, they're all fairly close to one another. And when we moved up here, the sort of all the different clubs, whether it was cricket, soccer, rugby, they were all so inviting to come along, from us as parents are inviting us to come along to meet other parents, and obviously the children as well, which when you're moving into a new town, and particularly when you're running a business, being invited to attend different events and meeting new people was always daunting, but we found that was just awesome. Children at school, you meet the parents, but it was meeting other people beyond that as well, which is really good.
It certainly is the case, and I often quote there was one school term there where when my boys were in year 9 or year 10 and they were playing 3 sports in one afternoon, we'd go to touch football, then we'd go over to the basketball stadium, and then we'd come back via water polo on the way home. And it's those sort of opportunities, and that may not suit everybody, but that's the beauty of having all your sporting facilities so close and handy, and it's and they're world class sporting facilities. So a transitioning family from that sort of area of Western Sydney or whatever, when they come here, it's everything is just so convenient and so predictably convenient, which is a big benefit.
Well, I know just from the soccer refereeing, mid-July, we've got a gala day up here, which will have 3,000 people attend. There's probably 1,500 of them will be playing soccer, but they're clearly not just from Tamworth, they're from the whole region. And, it's a gala day, for a certain level of the game. So it's not that we're in Tamworth, if our children want to go further, they've got to go somewhere else. There's opportunities being created in this town all the time. And I know recently hockey had a statewide gala day here in Tamworth. We also had gymnastics had a state gala day up here a couple of weeks ago. So regardless of the sport, there's always something happening to get those kids who have got the highest skill set to participate.
Yep, 100%. Well, Mathew, it's been a pleasure to be able to get some of your precious time, because I know you're a very busy man, but really appreciate it, and look forward to sharing in what is a very exciting journey for Tamworth.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's so much opportunity here, and businesses are making reasonable money in their pursuit of the growth that's happening here locally.
Fabulous. Mathew, thank you again.
Thank you.